Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. Today I want to give you a really quick overview of what I read in January. It's a little bit on the late side, but I thought I would give you a small wrap up anyway. This is my first wrap up video on YouTube, so we'll see how this goes. But basically I just want to briefly show you what I read, quick synopsis of what each book was about, and then I'll tell you a little bit of what I thought of the book as well. The first book I read in January was The Princess Saves Herself in This One by Amanda Lovelace. It's a poetry collection of which the second book has now come out, or is coming out very soon. I really enjoyed this. I've only recently started really reading more poetry, as I never really thought this was something I enjoyed. But so far I'm really enjoying the contemporary poetry by Rupi Kaur and now by Amanda Lovelace as well. So if you have any poetry recommendations, please let me know. I gave this a 5 out of 5. I couldn't read it in one sitting because sometimes the poems can actually be quite impactful and impressive, so I wanted to make sure that I actually let them sink in before I dove in and read the rest. So if that's something you also experience, feeling more emotions when you're reading this kind of stuff, be sure to be careful of that as well. I should have put these in order. Then I read Reading Lolita and Tehran by Azar Nafisi. I read this novel for one of my classes, but I genuinely really enjoyed it. I started enjoying it less once I started discussing it in class and with my classmates, but I did really enjoy my personal reading of it. So this is a memoir that explores issues experienced by the writer and her students in Tehran through the use and works of different literary books, novels, and writers as well, actually. It's divided into 4 sections, and each section discusses a certain book that they were discussing in a book club that she arranged for specific students to come to her house every Thursday to discuss the forbidden works of Western literature. But they end up not only discussing the books that they're reading, but they're also discussing their personal lives as well as the situation in their country and what that means for them and their families. So reading this insight into their lives through the use of literature was actually really an interesting take on it as well. I would also definitely recommend this if you're interested in reading more diversely and reading more books by authors from different countries than you're used to. I then read What I Talk About When I Talk About Running by Haruki Murakami. This has actually been on my shelves for quite a while now because I was running a lot a few years ago, and I thought that would be really nice to actually read something about running to combine 2 of my interests, but I didn't read it until this last month. So this is another memoir-style novel in which the author explores his connection to running and what it means to him in his personal life, but also in his life as a writer. As someone that used to enjoy running, I don't enjoy it as much anymore. I did really enjoy seeing someone's take on running in this way and what kind of impact it had on his life as well. I've enjoyed some of Murakami's work so far. I haven't read a lot of it yet, but having kind of an insight into the author's personal experience has also been really interesting, has allowed me to kind of want to read more of his works now. So in the novel he's training for the New York Marathon, but it takes you through different chapters of his life in which he was training for other kinds of runs and races as well. I gave this 4 out of 5 stars on Goodreads, so I would definitely recommend it if you enjoy running, and even if you don't, I think you'll at least enjoy kind of reading about someone's passion in this way. Oh, I didn't mention the other ratings I gave. I gave this Princess Saves Herself in this one, I gave 5 out of 5 stars, and I gave Reading Lolita and Tehran 4 out of 5 stars, in case you're interested. Then I read a Dutch book for the first time in a very, very long time called Vrouwen schrijven niet met een titel, which is a short story collection, and it was edited by Wiegertje Posma. But it's written by a collection of young Dutch authors, all female and all born after 1980, so young feminists, and almost literal translation. No, that's the literal translation, is Women Don't Write With Their Tits. Basically, it explores a lot of different feminist topics that women in the Netherlands, but also worldwide, have to deal with, and the different takes and the different writing styles really brought together a lot of different aspects that sometimes you find in several books, but not all together in one, which is a really interesting way to read. The essays are all quite short, so it's also really fast to get through, and if you enjoy reading in Dutch, I would definitely recommend it, and especially if you also enjoy reading other feminist works, this is a really nice way to read more in Dutch, but also read from a Dutch perspective, which I haven't done in quite a long time. I gave this 5 out of 5 stars on Goodreads as well. I also realized my ratings always seem quite high, but that's because when I don't enjoy a book, I tend to stop reading it, so unless it's for school, and then I just give it lower ratings. I then read The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas. This book blew me away, and I read it quite fast, and I think a lot of people will be able to, because the way it's been written really makes it feel like you're almost watching it happen and you feel like you're there. I think this book should be read by a lot of people, and I'm really glad the movie is at least in production, I think post-production now, so it should be coming out at some point, I think hopefully this year, because I think a lot of people should see this perspective and point of view. The book is about 16-year-old Star Carter, who's stuck between 2 worlds. She lives in a poor neighborhood, but she goes to a fancy suburban prep school. She kind of had a balance between the two worlds, but when one of her childhood best friends gets shot by a police officer, this all goes to hell, and she becomes the spokesperson almost for what happened there. The book further explores what happens after the shooting. The writing style is really amazing, and just the way that it's written, very relevant at the moment. I would definitely recommend this to everybody. I don't think my last few sentences made a lot of sense, but this book is really important, and I think it should get even more attention than it has already been getting. So be sure to definitely read this, and if you're one of my friends, you can borrow it at any time. And then lastly, you already saw a book review on this probably if you've been to my channel before, and if not, go check out the book review I made for The Blinds. The Blinds by Adam Sternberg. I got this book sent to me by Faber and Faber, and it was one of the first thrillers I read in a while. My previous experience with some thrillers hasn't been my favorite, but really enjoyed this book. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars on Goodreads as well. If you want to know more about why I enjoyed this book so much, be sure to check out the link in my description. So all in all, I read 6 books in January, which for me is enough and more than I have read so far in February, as I have yet to finish a book. I really like the diversity of the books I read last month, and I'm really looking forward to reading more again now that I've made this video. So let's see if I can get some books read in February. I hope you enjoyed seeing some of the books. If you read any of these books and you have some thoughts on them, let me know down below in the comments. If there's anything you want to see from me in particular, be sure to let me know. And until then, I will see you again in my next video. Doei!